Sticking out like a sore thumb is impossible in a high-end, secured community. So, idling in a parked car by a private driveway is out of the question. Hanging around simply isn't an option, and you practically become a ghost in an exclusive enclave where residents immediately recognize familiar faces and authorized vehicles. That brings us to a far more chilling mystery. How do you stalk an 84-year-old lady, observing her property, entryways, and daily habits for 3 full weeks without raising a single neighbor's suspicion? Figuring out the exact security lenses to obstruct and the specific yard debris to manipulate requires someone to spend massive amounts of undetected time on site, perfectly timing a 25-minute blind spot. Slipping in and out undetected by countless security feeds implies an inside job, meaning the perpetrator likely operated from a nearby residence rather than infiltrating from afar. Flying completely under the radar is incredibly difficult within Tucson's upscale Catalina Foothills district. The layout features sprawling, single-story desert properties, bounded by short stone barriers and natural greenery, tucked away along peaceful roads devoid of random daily commuters. Nancy Guthrie's immediate vicinity features widely spaced properties rather than tightly packed suburban housing lots. Locals easily identify familiar automobiles and instantly spot trespassing outsiders. Affluent tracts feature intense security measures, placing lenses on entry barriers, parking slabs, garage edges, and even hidden within tree branches, perfectly scanning the community pavement. Simply pulling over and idling your engine for 20 minutes practically guarantees that a suspicious resident will immediately take note of your unexpected presence right here. Despite this hyper-awareness, the horrific events surrounding Nancy Guthrie demanded an intruder possessing incredibly deep, tactical awareness regarding her specific land, the exact layout of her security systems, and schedule, her secure entryway, and habits. Ex-Pima County homicide investigator Kurt Dabb informed Parade magazine that executing the Nancy Guthrie plot required severe logistical coordination far beyond the capabilities of a lone wolf. Analyzing the available public evidence, he strongly suspects a highly organized crew of 2 to 4 individuals working together seamlessly across various specialized criminal roles. Having 2 to 4 conspirators zeroing in on a single suburban target is staggering. Executing an inside job requires deliberate preparation, proving this wasn't a random strike or something planned in a mere 3 hours, long before February 1st arrived. A dedicated watcher had already embedded themselves locally to memorize the daily flow and security blind spots. Federal agents recognized this crucial detail right from the beginning. Current law enforcement movements in the area suggest authorities are relentlessly pursuing their primary theory: where did the suspect vanish to when away from Nancy's front porch? Establishing a covert staging base is fully understood by Bob Kriegier after 30 years alongside Pima County Police. He previously managed tactical SWAT, which demands the expertise to mirror a fugitive's exact mindset, predicting their tactical choices, and fully dissecting how criminal reconnaissance unfolds out in the real world. During an exclusive Parade magazine interview regarding federal interest in an empty house near Nancy's estate, Kriegier didn't hold back his brutal honesty regarding the situation. He suggested detectives naturally zero in on such empty properties, viewing a freshly abandoned, silent residence as the perfect operational hub or disguised safe house for the perpetrators to establish a highly convincing, solid cover story. Let the gravity of that sink in for a minute. An empty dwelling offers immense value far beyond providing a simple roof overhead. It essentially grants legitimacy. Within the watchful confines of the Catalina Foothills, securing a residential anchor offers an alibi much stronger than mere physical concealment against highly suspicious local neighbors. It gives you a built-in excuse, transforming a lurking stranger into a seemingly harmless new renter or an interested homebuyer simply transitioning between local properties. You instantly become an accepted insider. Kriegier noted to Parade that an isolated spot shielded from nosy neighbors creates the ideal, uninterrupted environment for establishing a completely covert electronic monitoring hub. He emphasized how easily high-tech gear could be hidden inside the building or across the yard completely undetected, which is a truly terrifying thought to process. Forget the cliché image of a peeping Tom with binoculars. We are talking about highly sophisticated tracking cameras, or hidden remote sensors specifically aimed to record the surrounding neighborhood, programmed to map out Nancy's exact daily schedule over several weeks, leading directly to Kriegier's chillingly precise tactical assessment of the entire sprawling criminal operation. A phantom occupant living in that empty residence could wander the streets freely at dawn, noon, or midnight without ever raising a single suspicious eyebrow. By creating the flawless, convincing illusion of being a permanent resident, you suddenly have a solid excuse to be outside, casually greeting dog walkers and smiling politely at the local landscaping teams. You casually park your car, secretly studying the daily suburban ebb and flow, tracking every neighbor's routine, and relentlessly locking in on Nancy's exact schedule. Federal investigators aggressively targeting this specific unoccupied home certainly wasn't totally random. Since the beginning, News Nation correspondent Brian Enton has continually provided boots-on-the-ground coverage regarding this community. The hunt just escalated. Insiders reveal federal investigators stormed back into Catalina foothills this mid-March. They are knocking on doors again, heavily grilling locals regarding one specific resident who vanished right before Nancy went missing. We are talking days prior, not weeks ago, but moments before the 1st of February hit. The lead reporter just dropped 2 massive bombshells today. My own contacts verified that federal agents swarmed Nancy Guthrie's street over the past 24 hours, circling back to nearby properties to conduct intense follow-up interrogations. Listen, the absolute main focus of their recent interrogations centers entirely around a single resident who hastily relocated right before Nancy vanished into thin air. Detectives are aggressively digging into the circumstances surrounding that exact departure. While we cannot definitively link this event to the tragedy yet, it is undeniably a massive priority for the feds right now. Authorities are officially blanketing Nancy Guthrie's community again, zeroing in heavily on the specific individual who packed up and left right before the disappearance, probing deeply into those events. The journalist is clearly guarding his statements here. You really need to read between the lines and catch the silent implications hidden in his broadcast. Federal authorities absolutely never revisit a crime scene 6 weeks later just to poke around, unless that relocated resident's exact movements perfectly match the critical chronological puzzle they are currently assembling. Cops do not chase down moving dates unless that exact timing perfectly aligns with secret evidence they are already holding onto tightly. A sudden exit happened right before February 1st. The feds want motives, probing the empty house and tracking down extra lenses. Looking past that abandoned residence entirely, detectives secretly pieced together a parallel narrative. A chilling angle kept completely hidden from everyone until the recent journalistic exposé dropped this week. Agents repeatedly scoured an active building zone nearby, right at the crucial intersection of Camino Escalante and Camino Miral. A property being framed near her house saw federal agents heavily grilling laborers, tore through storage units, and surveyed the grounds. This detail is absolutely massive when you consider the tactical advantages involved. An unfinished building naturally provides the perfect excuse for constant, unquestioned movement of various random crews, courier drop-offs, and city officials, creating a rotating cast of characters easily tracked by a stalker watching closely. The site inherently offers incredible vantage points, stacked supplies for hiding, and easy backdoor entries into neighboring yards that normally stay locked down tight. Feds successfully salvaged extra surveillance stills directly from the victim's personal estate, pictures extending far beyond that viral porch video. National network sources claim lenses watching her swimming area, rear lawn, and side gates caught tiny snapshot glimpses of unknown figures lurking right before she vanished. Just low-res previews remained. The actual video files vanished completely. However, a retired federal operative assured the news crew that these fragmented glimpses are crucial. The expert stressed that detectives could reverse engineer those digital crumbs to finally expose exactly who trespassed on the property. Expose? Not legally verify just yet, but expose. Law enforcement still cannot put names to several shadowy faces pictured, strangers physically standing on her lawn before the 1st of February. Who exactly are they? Agents are compiling the roster. That active building zone, complete with its worker manifests now seized by the government, serves as their primary mapping tool. The 11th and 24th of January were both Saturdays. Official documents expose exactly what went down before the 1st of February. It is drastically more detailed than mainstream media admits. Detectives pleaded with the entire block to scrub their personal surveillance drives for any anomalies covering the whole opening month. Standard protocol, right, but then the demands turned incredibly targeted. Cops practically begged residents to isolate the evening of January 11th, highlighting that exact time frame in their official community blasts. The victims' relatives echoed this urgency during an emotional press release handed directly to local news. Loved ones begged locals to mentally rewind to the crucial 31st of January, the dawn of February 1st, and absolutely that late night of the 11th. On that Saturday, January 11th, the neighbor, Laura, who consistently granted on-screen interviews to the leading reporter right from the case's inception, openly admitted that cops hyper-focused on her digital tape from exactly 2 days, the 11th and the 24th of January. The journalist caught a massive detail everyone ignored completely. The 11th and 24th were Saturdays. Exactly 2 weekends, spaced 3 weeks apart, striking 3 weeks prior to the kidnapping. Identical days on the weekly calendar layout. This is not some coincidence. It is an undeniable pattern. Moving forward, an inside source leaked to a major digital news network that those terrifying porch snapshots the government recently pushed out actually originated from entirely different evenings altogether. At least one frame triggered on a completely unassociated night, proving that the disguised prowler terrorizing her steps actually showed up twice before February 1st hit. Meanwhile, the local sheriff's office aggressively denied the narrative. The official narrative insisted these photographs completely lacked digital timestamps to verify any distinct, separate days. But behind the scenes, detectives aggressively cornered the public for tips strictly regarding January 11th. Forget the broad timeline, they exclusively hunted for that exact, chilling evening. Law enforcement avoids dropping such hyper-specific appeals unless they possess concrete proof that a massive incident happened on January 11th. Detectives additionally retrieved movement-activated snapshots captured by secondary security lenses stationed around Nancy's residence. The swimming area, rear lawn, and side garden were recorded just prior to February 1st. Bear in mind, these snapshots avoid the actual kidnapping timeline. We are viewing trespassers roaming her estate prior to the snatching. This paints a disturbing security portrait. Authorities verified 3 distinct intrusions on January 11th, January 24th, and February 1st. With every breach, the stalker inched nearer to her entryway. Every single run gathered crucial intel. Each scout confirmed specific variables for the subsequent infiltration. Hitting the 30-minute timestamp brings us to the extortion letter. More accurately, the terrifying focus becomes its exact written text. Shortly after Nancy vanished, the initial extortion threat hit journalism desks, prompting TMZ star Harvey Levin to passionately highlight a glaring anomaly. He emphasized that this written threat held highly classified information far exceeding a basic financial plea. Tucked near the signature were alarming descriptions of Nancy's final outfit, structural vandalism at her residence, and the exact resting spot of her smart timepiece. News broadcaster Mary Coleman personally inspected the first extortion letter sent to her studio and summarized the terrifying contents this way. When exactly did your team gasp and realize this terrifying message probably was not an elaborate prank? You realize this document might be the real deal? Yes, absolutely. Listen, the page prominently displayed a required cash figure, a strict deadline, and highly classified secrets exclusively known to Guthrie's actual kidnapper. Those chilling elements definitely triggered massive alarm bells. She noted the paper demanded exact funds, a timeline, and secret trivia known only by Guthrie's captor. Initially, countless skeptics heavily doubted the document's sheer authenticity. Federal agents still actively investigate the authenticity of this extortion document. Investigators are seriously pursuing every single lead. We are definitely permitted to broadcast a handful of verified details regarding the letter's chilling contents. A massive chunk of this data consists of dark secrets exclusively possessed by the individual keeping her hostage. Truly, the vast majority of these written clues could only be known by the mastermind orchestrating this exact kidnapping. Harvey Levin clarified that a very specific closing remark completely grabbed his undivided attention. He noted, since federal authorities publicly confirmed it, the terrifying text explicitly referenced a shattered security bulb and a smart timepiece. That nugget proved utterly fascinating because the public already knew she wore digital wristwear. Numerous photographs definitely exist, showing her sporting the digital device. However, the kidnapper explicitly detailed the gadget's hidden resting spot inside the residence, a sensitive fact completely withheld from the mainstream press. This threatening parcel pinpointed the exact bizarre hiding spot of the digital bracelet, far away from any logical storage location. That obscure micro-detail instantly ignited absolute curiosity within the bureau. The perpetrator listed her evening attire, the smart device, a busted illumination fixture, and the state of her residence. The author weaponized these facts to cement their credibility. Every clue pointed toward a stalker possessing extreme familiarity with Nancy Guthrie's physical body and sanctuary during the abduction. This terrifying realization constantly forces us to confront one inescapable, horrifying puzzle. How could a complete stranger possibly decipher the exact midnight wardrobe of an 84-year-old grandmother relaxing alone on a weekend? What monster memorizes the obscure resting spot of her digital timepiece? The location was so bizarre that federal agents immediately launched a highly targeted inquiry. A stalker learns those micro details through terrifyingly close proximity. They clearly had direct access. The sinister dynamic connecting this ruthless kidnapper to Nancy Guthrie's private universe vastly exceeded casual observations made from the public pavement. A tactical staging nest provides more than visual cover. It guarantees terrifying closeness. Enduring closeness lets predators learn everything. They map the lens, the bushes, and the window. We must analyze the intruder's exact behavioral patterns on Nancy's porch during February 1st. Every single maneuver executed that evening exposes a terrifying inventory of his prior reconnaissance. Federal authorities broadcasted porch surveillance tape featuring a disguised phantom. This prowler rocked a facial covering and long trousers. The figure marched toward Nancy Guthrie's entryway donning a heavy coat, thick hand warmers, and an Ozark Trail rucksack. The intruder initially tried blocking the recording device using his covered palm. Following a quick retreat, the suspect glanced downward, yanked a leafy branch straight out of the garden, and awkwardly shoved it against the glass. Former federal investigator Josh Campbell delivered a remarkably blunt televised breakdown of this footage. Utilizing random garden debris to blind a security system seriously undermines the perpetrator's supposed genius. It casts massive doubt on their tactical preparation. Listen closely. Anyone who actually surveilled that exact property arrives prepared. A mastermind who mapped the lens placement, trajectory, and blind spots would show up equipped for sabotage. A true pro brings duct adhesive, rags, aerosol collar, or literally anything useful. Retired federal operative Steve Moore summarized the amateurishness with ruthless honesty. Listen closely, because the expert is absolutely certain that the intruder blinding that lens knew exactly who was trapped inside. There was absolutely zero guesswork involved here. This was definitely not some chance neighborhood sweep. The attacker had a target, and the timeline proves it. Her front sensor went dead at exactly 1:47 a.m. on February 1st. 25 minutes later, at 2:12 a.m., another monitor detected movement without capturing any video. A motion alert triggered, yet the actual video simply vanished. That is 25 long minutes between the initial blackout and an untraceable shadow crossing the yard. During this exact time frame, several nearby residents noticed their own surveillance feeds were suddenly wiped completely clean. Detectives also probed a local broadband outage corresponding with her vanishing, which was initially highlighted on NBC's morning broadcast. Police eventually shifted their focus toward a severely vandalized electrical panel situated just down the street from her home. However, local authorities ultimately confirmed to journalists that this damaged electrical fixture had absolutely nothing to do with the crime. So that particular theory hit a dead end. Still, those missing video files and that unexplained 25-minute blind spot remain crucial. Here is the absolute truth. The perpetrator struck exactly when the main surveillance system suffered a complete failure. Detectives still refuse to publicly say if this was calculated sabotage, a lucky break, or a total accident. Yet the attacker showed an uncanny familiarity with the security layout. Knowing the exact landscaping and precise neighborhood schedules strongly suggests this was not an initial scouting trip. An expert broke this down perfectly. A journalist recently returned to the local area and shared some fascinating questions that FBI agents were posing. Authorities actually demanded full identities for all the tradesmen handling a massive remodeling project at an adjacent home. During that broadcast, an expert analyst provided a highly significant piece of insight. The specialist completely shifted our perspective on these federal inquiries. While locals initially felt immense frustration about the redundant questions, residents assumed that digging into neighborhood laborers meant the FBI was still stuck squarely at square one. The expert strongly disagreed with that pessimistic take. Returning to the scene 6 weeks later for specific identities proves detectives are not floundering. Instead, it shows authorities have formulated a highly detailed hypothesis regarding the exact execution of this abduction. Now, they are actively verifying those suspicions by scrutinizing actual individuals connected to the area. The analyst explained this perfectly. Your central hypothesis dictates absolutely every single move made throughout the ensuing inquiry. Since day one, detectives have operated on the assumption that this was a deeply personal hit. There was absolutely nothing coincidental or opportunistic about this brutal ambush. Right from the moment this tragic case originally opened, police have operated under the belief that the kidnapper arrived fully aware of exactly who was inside that residence. They intentionally singled her out for a reason. The local sheriff openly confirmed to NBC reporters that they understand the dark motive behind this calculated attack. Therefore, if this was truly a premeditated strike, selecting this specific victim means the perpetrator possessed some prior connection to her. The specialist explained the underlying logic perfectly. Detectives do not actually view these local laborers as prime suspects. They simply consider them an invaluable information pool. These were individuals legally permitted near the property in the weeks before February 1st. Any of them could have easily interacted with her near the front curb, the sidewalk, or by the driveway entrance. We also learned a crucial, revealing detail regarding her daily lifestyle. Did she spend much time moving around or traveling outside the house? Although she owned a functioning vehicle, she completely avoided visiting any local congregations in town. Instead, she frequently streamed digital religious broadcasts straight from a distant New York parish that her close friend happened to attend. All of this evidence strongly suggests she was primarily a quiet homebody who rarely ventured outdoors. This isolation makes the investigation exponentially harder, since her social circle was incredibly restricted and private. Leaving the property was a genuinely rare occurrence for her. She practically never stepped foot inside a neighborhood parish. She preferred watching remote sermons hosted by a distant ministry linked to her associate. Locals mentioned she previously enjoyed community strolls years ago, though her rapidly declining physical condition eventually stopped those outings altogether. That drastically shrinks the pool of individuals who might have engaged in any substantial interaction or formed a bond with her. The list of strangers capable of secretly monitoring her personal habits is surprisingly tiny. The FBI is systematically eliminating those few connections, starting with the nearby tradesmen. Authorities desperately want to know exactly who occupied the adjacent properties. Here is exactly what the FBI is currently doing around her immediate neighborhood. Detectives are actively probing a former resident who relocated right before February 1st. They are also interrogating every single laborer at the nearby building project by their actual names. Agents are revisiting previously interviewed residents from weeks past, desperately hoping someone recalled a vital new clue to break the case. Investigators are hunting down cold tracks right now, driven by a single, terrifying hypothesis that has held firm from the very beginning. Someone hunted Nancy Guthrie down. So the ultimate truth absolutely lies within the dark connection between her abductor and these exact, highly specific suburban streets. Bob Krieger never just fabricated his staging ground concept merely for our production's sake. We are looking at the expert conclusion of an operative with 30 years of experience managing missions that demanded this precise tactical mindset. Any empty house nearby offers perfect camouflage, along with a solid, believable alibi. That setup lets an intruder prowl around the block, around the clock, totally unnoticed by sharp locals who easily spot suspicious outsiders. More importantly, it yields an invisible weapon, pure patience to sit, watch, and slowly study. The opportunity to see a victim's late-night pajamas, or to memorize exactly where they leave their smartwatch charging by the bed. They figure out exactly which bushes perfectly blind the security lenses. And you absolutely cannot pick up those dark details driving past once. That dark intel requires multiple scouting trips across weeks, spanning 2 distinct January weekends. What makes this story truly haunting is not just the crime itself, but the quiet precision behind it. It reminds us that danger is not always loud or chaotic. It can be patient, calculated, and hidden in plain sight. That realization carries an important lesson for all of us. We often believe that security systems, gated communities, or familiar surroundings guarantee safety. But this case reveals a deeper truth. Real safety comes from awareness, not assumptions. Even the most protected environments can be vulnerable when someone studies routines, habits, and blind spots over time. Another powerful lesson is the value of attention to detail. Small, seemingly insignificant patterns, unfamiliar movement, unusual timing, subtle changes can be early warnings. Ignoring them may cost more than we realize. Awareness is not fear, it is responsibility. This story also highlights the importance of community. When neighbors are attentive, connected, and willing to speak up, they become a powerful layer of protection. Isolation, on the other hand, creates opportunities for harm to grow unnoticed. In the end, this is not just about a single victim. It is about how we choose to live. Stay present, stay observant, care about the people around you, because sometimes the smallest awareness can prevent the darkest outcome.